pressure looks good.
Following up.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to NASA Spaceflight's live coverage of Boca Chica Starship SN4 testing. We are live from Boca Chica, thanks to Mary bringing us this live video feed, and we are staying tuned for what could be a second static fire attempt for the Starship SN4 vehicle. If you were tuning in with us last night, we saw a successful static fire test occur. But we understand that there is potential for another test to get even more data undergoing tonight. So we are going to bring you that live coverage, and we can report that the pad has just been cleared of all of the remaining personnel, which paves the way for fueling operations to begin momentarily. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm going to introduce everyone else who is here. My name is Thomas Burkhardt. I'm a writer for NASA Spaceflight. I am joined by Michael Baylor. Michael, say hello.
Hi, and I apologize about the time in the top left being incorrect. It's being fixed right.
Oh yeah, we'll get that time overlay corrected. It should be 11:30 a.m. Central Time currently. We'll get that corrected. But we are also joined by, of course, Mary. Mary, say hello.
Hi there.
And we are also joined by Jack Bayer. Jack, how you doing?
Hey, what's up? Jack Bayer here, photographer, videographer, editor, commentator, I guess now, for NASA Spaceflight. Ready to see some more Starship testing.
Absolutely. And we are also joined by Tyler Gray. Tyler, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm also a writer reporter for NASA Spaceflight and a new face on the stream tonight. So happy to join.
Absolutely. Good to have you. And thank you to the over 1,000 people who are in chat already. Glad that you could join us for another night of Starship testing. So right now, we know that the final personnel have cleared the pad, and the next step is going to be looking for the start of fueling operations. We're going to be looking for some venting, either from the fuel tank farms or the vehicle itself, and we'll be keeping an eye on that flare stack in the bottom right. If that activity picks up, those are all signs that fueling systems are active and that the vehicle will begin its fueling operations. So yeah. If you have any questions during our live stream, you can feel free to put them in chat. We will be taking a look, and we'd love to answer any and all questions that you have. Yeah. I don't. I don't know. How is everyone feeling for another night of testing tonight?
I'm super excited. How about everybody else?
I'm wide awake and ready to go.
It's always
Yeah,
exciting.
we have a couple people across. Oh, it's always exciting. Absolutely. We got a couple people across different time zones. We're all on varying amounts of sleep. We've all been staying up late for all these Starship tests recently, but we don't want to miss another static fire, so you can be sure we're all here and excited to see. We've got a little tiny bit of venting from the very left side of the tank farm, but that's pretty much constant. We're going to be looking for a big increase in activity before any fueling ops get underway, I think.
Mary, what's the temperature like there tonight? Is it comparable to what it's been recently? So we should be seeing a similar amount of condensation around the tank farm?
Right, yeah, it's about similar.
Great. Also, you're coming through loud and clear. It's really great to hear your voice, nice and crispy.
Oh, good.
And again, if you do have questions in the chat, I wanted to mention if you do at NASA Spaceflight in the chat, that'll help us track down those questions and make sure we can answer them for you. And we got one right here, Ethan Roberts. Do you think this static fire will last longer than the 3-second firing yesterday? Any thoughts? Predictions, maybe?
My answer is I don't know, but I sure hope so, just because I like Raptor fire. And if there's more of it, that's good.
Yeah, I agree. We don't have any specific information regarding why an additional static fire is taking place, if that is indeed the plan. We know that last night's firing was successful because Elon on Twitter said so, but it's always the chance they could duplicate pretty much the exact same test just for more data, or they can make some minor changes and look for to test something a little more specific. but of course, we're gonna have to wait and see.
We should come up with a T-shirt or some kind of merch that says "More data is more better," because it is more data,
That
more
is
better.
that is true. Couldn't agree more. People asking if this could be the hop test. We can pretty much confirm there is no hop test going to happen tonight. A couple things we were looking for, such as the installation of RCS thrusters, which would be needed for a hop test, is not there. So that pretty much rules it out on by its own. Also, we believe that the exclusion zone would be a little larger than it currently is for static fire tests, and since that hasn't occurred, that's another sign that this is just a static fire or a fueling test or something like that. No flight test today. I want to thank Sammy Daly for a $5 super chat. We greatly appreciate that. Any and all support, even just everyone who is tuning in to watch, we greatly appreciate it. And that helps us support the team, especially Mary, who are able to bring us these live coverage.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we did last night. I haven't looked at the stats yet, but I know what was it, night 2? We pushed 18 gigs up to
Yeah,
the network. So the data that this requires to bring the high quality feed that we have is nothing to shake a stick at. Is that an expression? I'm going to stop talking.
I think shake a fist at maybe. I think you were on the right track. Mary, we have a question for you. Have any RCS pods been seen yet? Have you seen any signs of RCS equipment getting prepared for installation?
I have not seen any signs of RCS pods. No.
What is the newest hardware that you have seen that perhaps if people want to look at the latest video on the NASASpaceflight channel, they might be able to get a glimpse of?
Hmm. I really haven't seen anything new lately.
What was that new machine? I was editing the video for today. Hang on, I'm gonna bring up a photo for myself. Sorry, chat. I don't mean to get you excited. We are unfortunately running without DAS today, but hang on. Let me just bring up this picture from so I can because it had what it was on the side of it, and I remember reading it and thinking, "What the heck is that?" And chat, if you want to see what it is, it's in our most recent video. Stand by.
We got another super chat, Cass Costello. Thank you for the 199 super chat. We greatly appreciate it. And Kevin, apparently shake a stick is a saying. Apparently I just missed that, but Kevin, thank you for the super chat as well. A question from San: does NASA fund Starship development or solely SpaceX? Until recently, it has been a primarily SpaceX-funded endeavor, although just a few days ago, NASA did award SpaceX a contract to conduct development work on a lunar lander version of Starship to support the Artemis program. So there is a little bit of NASA funding going towards Starship development. SpaceX also uses funding they get from selling launch contracts for their Falcon 9 and Heavy vehicles, of which NASA is a customer. So there's some indirect funding in that way, you could say.
It's pretty cool though that they've been given money through this NASA contract for the study on Starship, because if it ends up being selected, and even if it doesn't, that's money towards the development of Starship, and that is huge because we all know SpaceX operates in a lean fashion, and to get them a dump of money to develop the next generation system that they're working on is amazing. I found the photo. It's a Fugro, Fugro, cone pentrometer system. That's what it says on the side of it. It's like a rectangular room on tank treads. It's a really cool looking thing. I don't know. Did that arrive today, Mary? Did you remember seeing that?
Yeah, it just arrived today. And it also says what geotechnical and environmental testing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what that thing is, but that is like the exact kind of vehicle that I love, because it's such a little chonky little thing, and it's got windows on it. Clearly it's driven by somebody inside it, although, well, no, maybe I shouldn't say clearly, because in this photo that you took, it looks like there's a guy operating it maybe with remote control. And chat, I'm sorry, I'm talking about a thing you can't see right now, but like I said, it's in our most recent Boca Chica daily update videos. If you didn't know, in addition to doing these live videos and streams from Boca Chica, we also do daily Boca Chica update videos, also courtesy of Mary. Thank you so much, Mary, for those. But if anybody in chat knows what this cone pentrometer system from Fergo is for geotechnical and environmental testing, I would sure like to know more about what that is. So yeah, that's
Jack, if you link that image in our back Discord channel, Michael says he can still show that.
Okay, stand by. I'll try and get you a link. I'm sorry for talking about something that people can't see. I didn't mean to throw you that curveball. I just got excited because you said new hardware.
We will work to get that on screen. But yeah, if anybody's wondering where our Bluebird man DOS is tonight, he wasn't able to make it tonight, so that's why we are running the stream with all of us hosting together rather than having one professional live stream host. We know DOS is hard to replace. He does this full time, so I don't think any of us are quite as good as him at hosting, but we are still more than capable of running the stream and hoping for some good testing tonight.
Yeah, none of us can replace DOS as a host, but he did a great help with us getting this stream set up for tonight, and we're happy to be able to bring this to you because we don't want to miss any night of important Starship testing.
We'll probably miss the Bluebird footage though.
Although we will definitely miss the Bluebird footage. You know, he won't be here to plug his Bluebird stream, but I'm sure
But
he'll
we
make it
just
back as
did.
quickly as he can.
That's the beauty of his consistent plugging is now we've plugged it for him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's already won.
Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. Astro6 asks, once they start testing multiple starships, will you guys be doing constant live streams as testing ramps up at an almost constant rate?
I believe the current plan, we don't do a sort of 24/7 live stream. We know there's a couple people who do that. And of course, we always like to say that everyone who's watching these things, we encourage you to have multiple live streams up so you can catch the action. Right now, we're focusing our coverage on the special events so we would know testing's going on, like we think is going to go on tonight. That's when we're going to be bringing you this live coverage. But like we were talking about yesterday, I know me and Jack were going back and forth about just how quickly this could ramp up. And I mean, we're talking about SpaceX is talking about especially daily Starship launches and things like that. That's something that we're looking forward to. And hey, if we can bring you live coverage of constant rocket launches, I think that's something we'd love to do, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, going forward, it's crazy to think, if a lunar starship gets launched and then needs refueling, that's a super heavy booster and a starship being launched, and then the super heavy booster coming back and landing, being refueled, being restacked with the tanker starship. I mean, maybe not the same booster, but either way, it entails a rapid additional launch of another super heavy and starship stack to refuel the lunar starship. I mean, we're talking about a future here where we see, and this is just one system from one provider, so many super heavy class launches. I mean, just imagine seeing like multiple Saturn V's in a short period of time. That is unprecedented and astounding and a true advancement. It's not just Apollo 2. That's something new and something that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, the idea of lighting, 31 Raptor engines at once is just mind-boggling in and of itself. And then you're talking about that vehicle flying and then coming back and landing. What we've seen so far has been exciting enough. I don't know how we're going to handle the ridiculousness of a super heavy launch.
So this is interesting. Somebody in chat, I think FHM Consulting, said pentrometers are for testing soil compaction. And so I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not a soil compaction expert, but what I do know is that forever ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, a whole bunch of dirt was trucked into Boca Chica, and anybody following SpaceX at the time can remember all the talk was, oh, this dirt has got to sit there and condition the ground because it's on the beach the ground isn't suitable for heavy construction. So what they did is they trucked in all this dirt, and they literally just used the weight of the dirt itself to compact the ground and produce a suitable foundation for them to do construction. So if they're bringing in a device to test the soil compaction, hopefully that is a good indication that they are ready to rapidly move forward with additional construction at the site. I mean, that's, of course, we should get the rampant speculation banner up on there. I'm just being overly optimistic, but it's interesting to me that they are testing for soil compaction at the site, and I wonder what exactly perhaps that would be for.
And you're looking at a picture of that device that Jack was talking about right now. I will quickly bring it away, though, because I know we want to look at Starship, but just for reference, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, that thing is super cool. Thank you for bringing that up, and we will swiftly get it out of your field of view. Thank you, chat, for being patient. We love you.
We have a question here from Aaron. Can you discuss heat shields? What are they made of? How do they attach? How much the total, and when will they be attached to Starship? Well, we know we have some test heat shield tiles attached to this vehicle, correct?
Yes, we do. We have several. We have a few on the top and then several near the bottom of Starship.
Now, this vehicle isn't planned to undergo any sort of reentry or anything, though, so they're not going to be testing the actual heat shielding itself. There's some thoughts that they might be testing how they're being attached to see if they can withstand the vibrations of launching and landing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
famously, the shuttle heat shield tiles worked great. It was more of an issue of attachment, and maybe I should stop talking before I get out of my depth on shuttle matters. But so yeah, they could totally just be testing adhesion methods. But I'm curious, do we know what they're made out of? Is it a Pica X thing, or is it a different material? Do we even know yet?
I believe they're ceramic, but
Yeah,
it's
it's a sort of
possible.
ceramic. I don't know if we know the exact composition of it, but it's a sort of ceramic tile of some kind.
Whereas Pica X, what's currently used on Dragon and Crew Dragon, is a phenolic carbon impregnated ablator. Is that I just pulled that out of thin air. I could be
Yeah,
completely wrong.
I think you're about right.
Yeah, I think you got that right.
But yeah, that is the Dragon and Cargo Dragon and Crew Dragon heat shield, which is, we believe, not the material they're using on Starship.
That's interesting to me that they would choose to use a new material rather than a material they had experience and heritage with, because clearly the heat shields for Dragon are very robust, given that they're able to reuse them multiple times.
Well, I think they replaced
although
the
I'm
heat
not.
shield.
Oh, well, then I'll shut my mouth.
Yeah.
So you say you think they were fueling?
Yeah, I think they replaced the heat shields are ablative and they hit the
Oh.
salt water. So I believe they put on a fresh heat shield. But I'm not positive on that. But I think the point of these ceramic tiles, at least, is to be able to get multiple re-entries with little to no maintenance.
Gotcha. And of course, that is the giant idea behind Starship, is that you want to fly to space and back many, many times. And there we go.
No
Das,
maintenance, yeah. Go ahead.
We thought Das wasn't going to plug his Bluebird stream. He is in chat and mentioning his Bluebird stream. So I think he's still watching somewhere.
I see a question in chat. Reese Witt, soil compaction for flame trench construction. And I could be wrong, but what I thought I remember seeing is that we're not going to see a flame trench necessarily at Boca Chica. We'll see more of a flame diverter, which is more of a structure designed to divert the force of the flame sideways rather than a trench necessarily built into the ground. And I think that's due to maybe soil issues or water table issues being right on the beach as it is. I'm not quite sure. Not a construction expert. But yeah, that's
Yes.
I don't think it's definitely for, maybe for the foundation for a new launch mount, or maybe for some other sort of construction, but I don't think necessarily a flame trench, but could be. We don't really know what necessarily they're going to be building at that site there, and it surely changes not infrequently.
And Mary, if you can hear us clearly, I know we've been having some audio problems. There's a question for you about if you know anything about the new crane in Boca Chica. And it appears that we still do not have clean audio communications with Mary. That is an issue that we're working. We will get some new hardware out to her shortly to help support that. But as for now, I don't know which crane specifically you're talking about, but SpaceX did recently either purchase or they have a long-term lease on a large yellow crane that they've been using to stack the vehicles.
Yeah, I want to thank Adam. Welcome to PadRat. Thank you for that membership. That's another great way to support the channel, and especially Mary. People asking, have we seen any new Raptors come in to the Boca Chica site?
I don't think we have, but I could be wrong.
I mean, we have the one Raptor, which is mounted on SN4 right now, and that Raptor is going to power the hop test, which would come after any testing.
Up,
But-
and we're
Thomas.
saying,
Yeah, I'm
sorry,
going to cut
sorry,
myself
we have-
off because of what you guys are all about to bring up. We've got some vehicles returning to the pad you can see on screen. Michael, thank you for dropping the overlay.
That's
so it
not
looks-
that's not the best sign, but it looks really cool. And really quick before I forget, Thomas, sorry. Do we know what serial number Raptor is on serial number 4?
I don't think we do. Michael, any idea?
I believe it is serial number 18, but that is not confirmed by anything too official, so I'm not entirely possible. That was just one rumor that I saw.
Okay, so
but-
unconfirmed. Perhaps it's Raptor SN18.
It was known to be one of the 3 down there, so it would make sense, but
Right.
I can't say too confidently whether that's the case or not.
But yeah, so folks, we did just see some vehicles return to the pad. That is, of course, meaning they are not going to go under any fueling operations imminently. We're going to stay alive for a little bit, and we're going to see kind of how this plays out. Again, notices that went out to the residents warning about potential hazardous activity continues all the way till 6 a.m. local. And I believe that's the same time that the road closures have to be ended. So we will stay tuned and, of course, bring you any new information as we get it. But right now, the pad is no longer clear, so no fueling operations underway right now.
And I will say that we did know that they were working some issues this evening. So with vehicles now returning to the pad, it is quite apparent that things are not optimal for a test tonight. Like Thomas mentioned, there's still a while in the window, but we'll see how we're feeling. But given that the odds are not looking too great tonight, it is likely that at some point, if we don't see them clear the pad within the next, I don't know how much time, if we don't see them clear the pad again relatively soon, we will likely end the live stream for tonight and make sure we all get sleep for tomorrow night when there will be a higher chance of some action, because this is our 5th night in a row. Is that correct? I think it is our 5th night in a row of
Yep.
covering these late night tests. So we want to get some sleep before we make it 6 nights in a row, as that is looking like it could be the case right now. Again, no confirmed testing being off, but with vehicles returning back to the pad very soon after they left, the odds of a static fire tonight are obviously decreasing.
Yeah, so we will stay tuned for a little bit, but if it becomes apparent that no testing will take place, we're not going to stay live overnight if nothing's going to happen. So I do want to thank Mars Mountain as well as Rob. Thank you both for joining PadRat membership. We greatly appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions about anything about Starship or anything even SpaceX related or broader spaceflight related, put it in the chat. We'd love to talk about it while we're waiting to see what's going to go on here. We got a couple questions about the timeline going forward. Brendan wants to know how long it'll be until a 3 Raptor hop test. Again, that won't be the SN4 vehicle. We're talking about SN5 there. But we got a lot of places to go before that. Right now, we're looking for this vehicle to conduct any testing they want to do, such as what they were going to do tonight at one point. before they reached a single engine hop test, which we believe we were thinking next week sometime, right, guys?
Yeah, probably
And
sometime next week.
sorry to interrupt. If you look in the just above the status update, you can see a couple of people walking.
I
By
did.
the
I
tank.
can see that
Oh,
in front of
wow.
the fuel
I-
tanks,
I
right?
can see them there.
That is such a cool shot. It really gives you a sense of scale, and I'm going to take a moment to really kind of be in awe of how cool that looks, while I'm simultaneously disappointed that there is people walking towards the vehicle, which I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you is not the best sign for testing tonight.
I
At
will
least
be
destructive testing, which is, the exciting stuff.
I will be completely honest. I did not realize those fuel tanks are quite as big as they are. I mean, those people are tiny compared to the horizontal fuel tanks.
Yeah, picture a rail car, like a standard tanker rail car. If
Sure.
you've ever been, they're bigger than that in diameter, I believe, and they're definitely, several in length.
Way
So
longer.
they're quite large, and both of those things, the people, I mean, that gives you a sense of scale. Look at the flame from the flare stack on the right now, and you can
Right.
imagine that's over a person of flame right there. So that's a 6 foot to 8 foot flame easy, and we've seen it so much larger. That was such a cool shot to see. That it is disappointing as it may be to see people on site currently.
Yeah, some people asking about where you can see the people. The people have walked behind the tank into the darkness, so they are no longer visible. But for a couple of seconds there were two small figures walking past that. It was the first long horizontal tank on the left side of the screen, but the furthest tank to your right, horizontal.
I just looked, Michael, and it was at 11:54 p.m. on the stream clock. So about 2 minutes ago. If anybody wants to rewind and check that out, it was about 2 minutes ago.
And some people asking if we're gonna go live again, if action picks up again. Okay, we're not going anywhere just yet. We want to wait and see what happens for a little bit. I think if we stop the stream or if we stop our live coverage tonight, we will do so because we believe no testing is going to occur. We have been live again the last few nights. We've all been well into the night in our respective time zones doing this, so we want to make sure we're available to bring you live coverage when testing does occur. But we're not going anywhere just yet. We'll hang out for a little bit, which means keep bringing us your questions in chat. We greatly appreciate that. Gives us something to talk about while we wait to see what's going to go on here.
We can always enter this wild speculation zone too. I
Well,
mean,
how about-
I'm fond of it.
I have an even better idea. We have a request from DOS to put some bluebirds on the screen. Again, the pad does not have any. The pad cannot have a field vehicle right now because the people on the pad. So you're not going to miss anything. But DOS insisted that we put this great picture that his daughter took on the screen. And I'm actually going to remove it because if you look back on the bottom left, sorry to interrupt. You can see
there's
the
more
people again.
people.
Yeah. In the bottom left corner of the screen, you can see some people walking around. Looks like they have flashlights. So clearly there is some sort of issue, maybe with ground support equipment based on where they're walking, that they are looking into. But again, we don't know the specifics behind why they have returned to the pad.
That's the classic bluebird trick. You put bluebirds on the screen. You put anything on the screen other than Starship, and stuff just will start happening. It's kind of uncanny how that happens every time, seemingly.
People asking about the decision to move the Super Hover design from 37 Raptors to 31. Do we know the rationale behind that decision?
I don't think we know the specifics behind it, but it could be that maybe because they're looking for to accommodate just I'm not sure.
I mean, there was a lot of different factors behind that. I mean, at one point there was a plan to flare out the bottom of the Super Heavy booster just so it could fit more engines. But we don't. The most recent renders and things we've seen from SpaceX haven't shown that.
It could also be that perhaps the vehicle, and again, speculation, the vehicle could have gotten lighter, and so they need less engines. It could be as simple as that, but I don't think we know quite why that's happened yet. And frankly, this vehicle has changed so many times and has
Right.
probably changed so many times that we don't even know, because we get, basically like a yearly or semi-yearly update based on what Elon tweets, plus the IAC presentations that they tend to do, if that's even the right acronym.
Wait, sorry to interrupt. We have a vehicle leaving.
Yeah,
Yes.
we see one vehicle leaving the pad. The big key to know when the pad is actually clear is when we see those emergency vehicles leaving, especially the fire truck, which is of course the most noticeable. So pad isn't clear just because this car lead, but a car leaving is a good sign that maybe they
Look at
had to go
Starhopper. Look
and
at look at Starhopper. I can see the reflection. Go ahead, Mary. Were you going to say something?
It looks like the fire truck may be coming.
yeah, I can see that the flashing lights that were reflecting on Starhopper kind of
Yeah,
moving.
it's
So
coming.
clearly the fire
So
truck is moving. You said it's leaving?
pad must be clear.
All right, so it looks like they are
Yep.
re-clearing the pad, if that's a word. Clearing the
Yes.
pad again. So like we said, that's why we're not going anywhere. Looks like that the night is young, as they say. And there you go. You can see at the bottom of your screen now emergency vehicles departing the pad once again.
They turned it off and on again.
Oh, of course, the classic fix.
It's the
So
only
hopefully,
true solution.
yeah, hopefully a minor issue that they just had to go back to the pad and correct.
Or maybe just an inspection, possibly.
True. Yeah, it's true. There's not. I'm assuming they fixed something. They could have obviously just gone and inspected something. I
What a
know we see
beautiful shot.
that is gorgeous. I mean, it can't be said enough. Thank you, Mary, for bringing up this incredible feed. It's just a gorgeous shot of the Boca Chica facility.
Yep.
Everybody
Mary
in
is-
chat, smash the like button and give some love to Mary. Thank you, Mary.
Yep, she is the machine that makes this whole thing work. Thank you, Mary.
You're all welcome.
I am continuing to scroll through chat. If you have any questions, continue to bring them. We love talking about them.
Good luck scrolling chat. It just exploded with love for Mary.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you,
I
everybody.
started scrolling right before the Mary explosion because otherwise I wasn't going to see anything.
To be clear, that doesn't mean stop. If anything, it
Oh, yeah,
means
but
give
that would-
Thomas a harder time.
I want make my job as hard as possible. And yeah, you can see that fire truck is pulling away, so pad is clear once again.
There's like the exact right amount of haze to make, atmospherics, as they say, to make the scene look super extra cool. I mean, the headlights on those vehicles, how cool did that look?
Yeah, absolutely.
That looked pretty sweet.
I know there's a very similar effect. I've unfortunately never been able to travel to Boca Chica, but traveling to the Cape when there's a night launch and those spotlights are bright, super bright, and when there's just enough humidity in the air where you can see the spotlights shining up towards the rocket, it's such a gorgeous scene. I mean, this is exactly that. And we can, of course, have a gorgeous shot of the underneath of Starhopper, oh my god, I called it Starhopper, Starship SN4. If a static fire takes place, we'll have a gorgeous shot from this plot. Of course, we can see Starhopper. It's actually hiding behind the fuel tanks on the left part of your screen. You can see it chilling out there.
I love that it's like slightly sneakily hidden behind one of the tanks. Like it's watching too. We're all watching along with Starhopper. It's kind of hilarious.
And yeah, again, there's a little bit of venting on the very far left side of the tank farm. There's always a little bit of venting from the tanks. We're looking for that activity to really pick up before we'll understand that any fueling activity is actually underway. But we'll be keeping an eye on that. And also, the flare stack on the right is another thing that indicates when activity is starting to pick up. We did see recently that they've actually put some cameras and equipment on Starhopper. We think that might be a sort of engineering camera of some kind, getting more footage of the Starship testing or something like that.
Yeah, it would be a reasonable assumption.
I just hope that whatever happens to Starhopper, it ends up in a place of honor, whether that's similar to how they have the booster, the first landed booster at Hawthorne. You know, if they keep Starhopper in Texas at Boca Chica, or maybe at McGregor, I don't know if that's appropriate, or maybe Houston or Johnson Space Center, or you know, any of the places that would take it, ideally in Texas, but it deserves a place of honor, and I hope that Starhopper, you know, gets such a thing. It'd be really cool to, as you're driving to the future SpaceX launch facilities in South Texas, you're driving down Highway 4, I think it is, and you come across the monolith that is Starhopper as you get closer and closer to the pad, sort of as like a, I guess you call it a gate guardian, you know, the fighter jets outside of military
Sure.
bases. That's a frequent term I see online a lot.
And yeah, there's
So Starhopper would be one heck of a really cool gate guardian for SpaceX's Boca Chica facilities. You know, absent being put in a museum somewhere, which I absolutely think it deserves.
there's a couple pieces of SpaceX hardware scattered in various spots. Of course, the first landed Falcon 9 booster is in Hawthorne, outside the company headquarters. There's a cargo Dragon capsule at the Kennedy Space Center, and there's a flown and landed Falcon 9 at the Johnson Space Center now. Is there anything else? Am I missing other spots where you can go spot flown space hardware?
I mean, if you're lucky enough to get into SpaceX for a tour, or I
Oh, that's
believe
true.
they have a Dragon hanging from the ceiling
Yeah,
in
and you can see that
headquarters
on
in
some of their
Hawthorne.
live streams. If you see the shots of like Mission Control or things like that,
Exactly.
yeah, you can see it kind of hanging just outside Mission Control above where a bunch of the SpaceX employees will watch the launches from and things like that.
Yeah, that's the only reason I know that's there.
Mary, are you here? Want to make sure we have audio with you.
Yeah, I can hear you right now.
Okay, we have a question for you. People asking, did you have interest in photography, or especially like launch photography or space photography, prior to SpaceX bringing their operations down to Boca Chica, or is this a new thing since SpaceX has shown up in your backyard?
It's a new thing since SpaceX moved in. Yeah, yep. I had no real interest, in SpaceX really either. Just watching every day Starhopper being built, you know, it just piqued my interest. I could go to bed at night, couldn't wait, hurry, you know, it's like I would hurry up and wake up in the morning to see what was new going on. It was exciting. So
It, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, think about that. It's practically your life now. I mean, you're out there every day film with new photography and video, which of
yeah,
course we love sharing to everybody, and we all greatly appreciate that you enjoy it so much.
yeah. Um, and really we have to thank SpaceX. If they weren't so open and letting us, you know, photograph everything and, you know, be there every day, you know, this wouldn't be happening.
It's pretty
So,
amazing. It's pretty amazing, and I'm thankful every single day that you're out there, and every single day that things are the way that they are right now, because the progress is very rapid, and you never know. We could be walled out in any second. They build structures so rapidly.
mhm.
You know, it don't take anything for granted, and I'm so thankful that you're working so hard to bring this to us. Can I have another question, kind of in a similar vein? Um, just out of curiosity, is this sort of the first space related thing that has sort of piqued your interest or inspired you, or is there another thing that you can remember, perhaps like the flight, any like a space shuttle mission, or maybe you know, I'm not sure, maybe like Skylab or something, or is there anything else that sort of piqued your interest in the space realm, or is this kind of like the first thing?
Th- um, this is more the first thing that really has, yeah, taken, captured me. to this extent.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
how could
always,
it? How
there's
could it
always
not? It's right
been,
in your backyard.
like the Challenger or different. I remember growing up, and my parents would always watch any launch. So, but I never really had an interest in it. But just being here and watching every day, you know, that's what got me Starhopper. It
Mary,
was
we have a question from a pretty well-known user in our chat. Scott mainly wants to know what your idea of a fun Wednesday night was before SpaceX turned up.
Oh, well, sometimes it might not have been on a Wednesday night, but here in the village we have game night.
There you go. That sounds fun.
Yep. We play cards or dominoes. Yeah.
What card game would be a typical card game? I'm very curious.
Swearing rummy.
I'm
I'm not
familiar with
familiar.
Rummy. I'm not familiar with the specific one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So that's
so now what happens is when we all come down to cover some more Boca Chica coverage, we have to have game night while we're covering Starship is I
oh,
think the
that would
obvious
be
solution.
great. That would be
That
great.
sounds really, 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 really fun.
Yeah, it does sound fun.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better backdrop to a card game than a rocket pad.
Absolutely. In the same vein, I don't know, having been there and been out to the beach area there next to the launch pad, um, like a lot of places, it's the same out here in California. There was a good amount of litter out, by the beach and kind of where the road ended near the beach.
Mhm.
It'd be really
Yeah.
cool next time we're all out there for an event, to sort of just do like a cleanup day. It might be like a nice meet and greet kind of thing. And it would also be cool to just sort of clean up debris and trash from the beach. It would kind of serve two purposes, and we could meet everybody that's able to come out. We could all hang out, get some beach time, get some waves, and also do good for the environment and sort of clean things up a little bit. Because, to be clear, it's not SpaceX creating the trash. It just appears to be trash washes up from the ocean, or people that use the beach happen to leave things. But it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and we should just take care of it and love it. And it'd be really cool to hang out there with everybody playing games or cleaning or just hanging out on the beach. I just like Boca Chica so much. It's such a beautiful place.
I'm trying to keep up with all the super chats and the memberships coming in. Adam Chance, thank you for launch director. That's a huge amount of support. Thank you so much for joining. And we had a question here, a super chat question from High Desert Garden. Can Starship make it to low Earth orbit without super heavy? And I can actually take that one. The answer is technically yes. We believe that, and this is mostly based on some Elon Musk Twitter action, that if they didn't want the vehicle back, it could theoretically go all the way to low Earth orbit without using that super heavy booster. But there's no point in doing that because the vehicle would have to use all of its fuel and it'd basically be stuck there. So no use doing that. It's not going to have any orbital flights before having that super heavy booster. What we could see is maybe some suborbital flights where the vehicle could potentially reach space, but not the high orbital velocity. And that would be a sort of super high altitude, straight up, straight down kind of test, or some sort of maybe minor boost back test profile. There's a lot of things they could do as far as landing testing with the Starship vehicles. We know eventually they're going to go up to 20 kilometers, hopefully as soon as the SN5 vehicle. And then there's potential that they might want to go even higher than that, as well as even a suborbital flight before going to orbit. But the orbital flight, they'll need the super heavy booster. Good question.
And if it were to reach orbit, it also couldn't carry any usable payload. I mean, it
That's
could
true.
carry like a backpack or something, but
yeah,
the payload wouldn't be like you would get much more payload if you were to use super heavy.
We have a
Uh,
question in chat. Thank you, Adam Nolan Charles. Thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate the support from everybody. The question from him is, Mary, does every test give you an adrenaline rush? It does for me. I would agree with that. How do you feel adrenaline wise when these tests happen, Mary?
I'm excited when testing is going on. Yeah, absolutely.
What was the other night for you like after the static fire? I mean, I know for me personally, I was all jazzed up and I couldn't sleep, even though I know I should have gotten sleep, given how late we've all been up lately, especially you. But these things give you a sort of a burst of adrenaline.
Yeah,
It's
I
crazy.
I was the same way. I thought I'd go home and go to bed. Nope. I was awake for several hours after. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's the paradox that happens with these sort of launches and covering these sort of things where you know in your heart of hearts that you really should probably get some sleep, and you do, but at the same time you're just so absolutely floored by the events that you've witnessed and that you've been able to share with everybody that it keeps you going better than any cup of coffee ever could.
Right. And the accomplishment that SpaceX has had, that, with static fire, and then what it leads to, you know, it's
Yeah,
more
it's a
exciting
direct path.
days.
It's a direct path to the future, and it couldn't be more exciting, and it's absolutely amazing that we get to watch along with you and watch along as they do this. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I know I've said it a million times, and I will say it a million more. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
And I see a couple people in chat pointing out that, yeah, we're working on making sure that time overlay is showing the right time zone. As you know, Das, our usual host, is not here, and as a result, the overlay is running from a different server than normal, and with probably something to do with that. But we're going to make sure we get that corrected. It is currently 12:16 a.m. local time. And of course, you're looking at a live view of the pad, and this window goes all the way up till 6 a.m. As far as the state of play, if you're just joining us, the pad is clear. We saw some people briefly return to the pad, but they have since cleared it again. And we are currently looking for the first signs of any fueling operations underway, as SpaceX potentially gets towards a second static fire tonight. Hopefully, at the very least, we'll see some sort of testing, but it's mostly going to be about staying tuned and seeing what they can get done tonight.
Yeah,
Yes.
honestly, I don't have anything better to do. I might as well hang out with you guys, with Mary, and watch this thing. It's super cool that we get to see it, and it's just exceptional that we have such a great, solid view. I mean, look at that, everybody. That's the next step in humans' reach into the solar system and beyond. And that is, it can't be understated. And it can be hyperbolic. You could argue with me, but honestly, look at that. That's an amazing thing to see. And I cannot wait to see what it does next and what it leads to.
And with these views we're getting, it's just like being there.
It really
Absolutely.
is. I mean, I'm wearing my watch that tells me my heart rate, and it absolutely spikes. I mean, I'm standing up right now. It's not even fueling, but this sort of thing is enough just to get me revved up because I mean, wow. Oh, tank farm. We got some activity from the tank farm. Look on the extreme left side of the frame there. We got some condensation. Look at that. I don't know if that's a good sign or not, but you know what, folks, I'm gonna be excited because that's what I do. I'm
Yeah, we've
excited.
got a little bit of venting over on the tank farm. Again, if that really picks up, that'll be a good sign that we're getting well underway here. If you're just joining us, if you were joined us last night when we had a bunch of testing going on, if you want to know kind of what we're looking for, the big steps are that increase in condensation or the huge pickup in activity from the flare stack. And that's usually the first sign that fueling operations are underway. We can also get a audio indication. Sometimes Mary can hear the actual fueling underway. So that'll be another sign that things are starting to pick up. Once that happens, we'll be looking at the Starship vehicle As it gets fueled, the tanks become a little frosty on the outside because of the super cold propellant being loaded. So that comes next, and then once that happens, we'll be waiting for a warning siren. As locals were told that prior to any loud or hazardous operations, there would be a 10-minute warning siren, and that's what we saw yesterday. I guess it was early. Oh no, it was last night because it was actually a pretty smooth operation last night. Um, but 10 minutes prior to any static fire attempt. And then after that, we'll just be staying tuned and hoping for a static fire. So those are the sort of steps we can expect coming tonight. But again, no fueling operations underway just yet that we can tell. The pad is clear, however, so that could start at any moment.
Just a game of hurry up and wait.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of hurry up and wait in Boca Chica. Last night was a pretty smooth operation. Pretty much as soon as they cleared the pad, we saw fueling ops get right underway, and then they fueled up and fired up, and that was that. But obviously, we know they were working through some issues earlier in the window. So clearly, some items of interest that SpaceX is going to be looking at, and of course, they're not going to proceed past anything that is not um, 100% ready to go. So the completion of every step is dependent on everything that came before it. Can't do the static fire until all the fueling goes well. Can't do all fueling well. Can't get into fueling before the pad is clear and all those systems are checked out before you start fueling. So it's a slow and methodical process to make sure that everything goes just to plan. And again, a question about that siren. We usually don't hear any warning sirens until the vehicle is already fueled. And once that siren does go off, that's sort of a 10-minute warning prior to a static fire attempt. But again, we're ways off from that. We're still waiting on the first signs of fueling tonight. So
Gotta wait for Starship to get nice and frosty before the siren goes off.
yeah, we got some questions about Lunar Starship. In case if you may not know, SpaceX was selected by NASA to develop a version of the Starship vehicle designed to land humans on the moon. And it's a version intended to launch aboard Super Heavy from Earth and then travel to lunar orbit, and then it would make several trips between lunar orbit and the lunar surface, and be reused kind of that way over and over again. Um, and we saw that version would have a couple different features than normal. It had some upper mounted thrusters for the final descent, which is not something we've seen before, um, as well as the traditional Raptor engines. So um, a lot of good thoughts on that. Do you guys have any thoughts on that sort of exciting new development in Starship?
I have plenty of thoughts about it. I will try to give you only the most interesting ones. And the most interesting one I can think of is those thrusters. We know so little about them so far, and yet I'm so tantalized. I mean, what are they? What is the fuel of those thrusters? What is the capability of those thrusters? It is the mounting of them as speculation that I've seen in order to avoid, kicking up lunar regolith as the vehicle lands. What is the descent and landing profile look like? Is it basically like if you've played Kerbal, like a zeroing out and then you sort of drift to the surface very, very, very slowly. So those thrusters don't even necessarily need to be very strong. So many questions around the thrusters, but I will stop there and maybe allow for some answers or some speculation or what interests everybody else about that render and that announcement that we know. I mean, Lunar Starship. It's so cool and so great that we get to see development of this vehicle progress under that under that banner.
It was actually a little surprising to me because, and I touched on this when our NASA Spaceflight live show this past Saturday, when we were talking about all the lunar lander awards. The lunar starship is not something we expected to see when NASA announced the lunar lander. We kind of expected the Blue Origin lander a bit, because we had heard a lot about that. The Dynetics kind of came out of nowhere. Not a lot of people had heard about that one. But if SpaceX wants something, we were kind of expected a sort of Dragon XL situation where they were going to propose something a little based on some past flown hardware like Dragon hardware and Falcon hardware, rather than proposing their very ambitious Starship vehicle. But NASA looked at Starship and said, "Hey, this is kind of the end goal of what we want: a fully reusable, super high cargo capacity to land people and cargo on the moon." So this and NASA was like, "Yeah, if you guys can make this work, this is absolutely what we want to see." And that's why they gave them this development funding to see if how they can get. And that's a sort of a 10-month period since those awards a couple days ago. That they'll see how development continues, and then they'll select which ones are going to fly sort of demonstration missions.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I'll be honest with you. I knew that, and I think a lot of us knew that they were submitting Starship as that bid, and uh, NASA can frequently be risk averse, and it's really cool to see them select Starship, given how different it is to all of the other options. And it's refreshing and it's exciting because it's so different and it's so transformative for what it could do to lunar exploration and lunar development. And I mean, Das, I'm sorry, Das, I'm going to steal this from you slash reference you saying it the other night, seeing lights on the dark side of the moon. I mean, that takes a serious amount of lift capability and a serious amount of rocket to be able to deliver that sort of payload to the moon where we can actually be there on a permanent basis. And what a tantalizing thought. How cool would that be to have an actual permanent moon base and all of the things that would open up? I mean, a radio telescope on the moon, I know, has been said to have the capability to be super effective being outside of the interference from the Earth. I mean, just the inspirational aspect of it. Let's go back to the moon. Let's go back in a big way, and not just flags and footprints, but let's go back for real. And it's very exciting. And I'll stop babbling about lunar starship now. I apologize.
no, absolutely. I 100% agree. Starship, if Starship is successful, this is a super transformative vehicle. So a lot of people are very excited to see it. Have a question about why isn't the lunar starship made from stainless steel? And this is something that a lot of people brought up because the render that NASA and SpaceX shared during this award um, was white and didn't see the steel showing through. Um, we don't know that it's not stainless steel. It's possible that they just painted over it, especially because the vehicle wouldn't be re-entering to Earth.
And
So
by everyone, looks like we have a lost signal
uh,
from Boca Chica.
Okay, we are working through the video. We can see the video is frozen. We'll get that feedback to you as soon as we can, so stand
Mary, are
by.
you here? Mary, can you hear us?
Yep,
Okay.
just a minute.
Okay.
All right, stand by, everybody, as we work through this issue. Normally, we would have a hiccup like this, and it would be a little bit smoother thanks to Das being here and being able to massage things a little bit. But right now, we're just going to swap a battery, and we're going to do a little bit of troubleshooting. So stand by with us. No big deal. We'll have this under control here shortly. Just give us a few moments. Thanks for bearing with us. And the good news is nothing particularly imminent was, oh, there we go. Looks like we've got some picture again. But yeah, again, the vehicle was not, did not appear to being fueled. There was no frost on the vehicle. So stand by with us. You're not at risk of missing anything. Just a few moments here while we get things sorted. It should not be long. And thank you again for your patience.
Yeah, it looks like what happened was the camera battery died for some reason. It should have not. It should have lasted a bit longer than that, but we have plenty of spares, so we'll have the signal reacquired shortly, and hopefully we'll see some testing shortly after that. But again, there was no testing. The fueling had not begun yet, so we are not missing anything right now. But we are
Peter
working to reacquire
Crowhurst.
signal.
Peter Crowhurst in the chat. Thank you so much for the super chat and the cute. I don't know if that's qualifies as a GIF or a sticker, or I don't know what YouTube calls them, but it says, "Thanks for being you." Thanks, Peter Crowhurst. That your support really makes a difference. We really appreciate it.
So Mary, if
well-
you can hear me, what is the status of the solo on the screen?
I think it might have turned off.
Okay, hit that power button.
Again, folks, we are working to regain our signal. We just have to complete a battery swap here, but no fueling operations underway just yet. So you're not missing much, I promise.
We have
while
a
we're-
question in. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
We have a question in chat from Adam Nolan Charles again. Honestly, when do you all really think we are going to land on the moon again?
Well, the NASA's plan is by 2024, and I think
I believe it.
that's technically possible. I'm gonna hesitate to call it probable just because, we mentioned just a couple of days ago is when they announced the Lunar Lander Awards, and that's for initial development stuff to start happening. That doesn't mean that, 4 years from now that development can't be finished. I think that's ambitious, but I think it's totally possible.
Absolutely.
I would guess mid 2020s, maybe 2026, because you got to have some room for some minor delays, especially when you're developing new hardware and stuff. 2024 probably at the earliest.
That makes sense to me. That's a logical and reasonable wager there. I just purely selfishly, I want to see humans on Mars by or at 2030. So I'm going to really hope for 2024 because I feel like if we just notionally, purely just gut feeling, if we get to the moon 2024, Mars 2030 seems like it would be even further in reach. But that's just what I want to happen. What will actually happen, reality is a different story. We all know.
I get asked a lot when I think that first crewed Mars landing would happen, and I've always just given the wide range of the 2030s. And again, a lunar landing mid 2020s, especially if those missions are aimed at long duration spaceflight and demonstrating the kind of long duration missions that a Mars mission would be. If that's the aim of those missions, or at least a part of those missions, I think that sets us up for 10 to 15 years from then, seeing a crewed mission to Mars, and that's certainly NASA's hope as well.
Precisely, yeah. I think I don't know. I'm going to try and popularize it a little bit. Hashtag Mars 2030, or no hashtag, just Mars 2030. The idea that 2030 is an ambitious but achievable goal. And once again, if you're just joining us, or if you're sitting here waiting and wondering what's going on, we are completing a battery swap on the camera. We just had a brief loss of signal, and we will be reconnecting back here shortly. Just hang with us. The good news is that you're not missing anything. The vehicle does not appear to be fueled. We are just hanging out and having a chat, answering your questions here. So if you have any, throw them in the chat while we wait to reacquire signal, and we will be back up again here shortly.
Yeah, I've got a question here. Hold up. Well, all right, I did have a question. I just scrolled past it. Man, it's really good. Okay, here we go. Kua with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for your support. Have any stats on the refueling version of Starship come out yet? 100 tons of fuel or more? I don't think we have hard numbers for the amount of fuel it would bring. We do have an idea sort of the capability that it provides. In fact, as recently as the Human Lander Awards, we knew that a single refueling in low Earth orbit was required for the human landing system to proceed over to lunar orbit. And then shortly after that, Elon Musk mentioned on Twitter that they're going to try to land that version on the moon with enough propellant to return to Earth, rather than relying on surface refueling once you get there. So we know that refueling is still an integral part of the Starship architecture. We're waiting on hard numbers, and again, those won't come until further along in development when SpaceX has worked out a way more details on the system itself. But that's a very good question, and that's definitely still a big part, having that tanker variant of Starship available to support operations. Question from Adam: what is the reality of a high kilometer test soon? Right now, that's going to depend on, again, things like another static fire test. We know that SpaceX is working towards that as soon as tonight. Things like that preceding a low 150-meter test. And then only once that is complete, and then the campaign moves to the SN5 vehicle, which will have the features such as a nose cone and aerodynamic surfaces. Only then, and 3 Raptor engines. Only once that is all ready to go will we see a high kilometer test. So, depending on your definition of soon, I mean, what kind of time frame do you think we're looking at for a 20-kilometer top test?
And Mary, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, so is the inverter on
Yes.
and the solo's on?
Yes.
And what does the solo say?
It could not identify video input. Check camera connection. And I've unplugged the HDMI and put it back in.
Okay, press and hold the power button on the solo, and let's turn it on and off. Or turn it off and on.
Morhan, thank you for the super chat. We greatly appreciate it. Everyone who's tuning in, stay tuned. We are just working on completing a final battery
Okay.
swap so we can get this feedback.
And let me
Sarah
know
with
when the solo is powering up, Mary.
the super chat. We appreciate you as well.
And again, everyone, they're not testing yet, so we're not missing anything right now, and we should be back hopefully shortly. It looks like either the battery on the camera or the battery on our broadcasting unit has died, so we are working on replacing that.
Tony Rocketry wants to know that, do you think SpaceX tested the landing legs, or do you think they'll do a deployment test prior to the 150-meter hop? I don't know if we've seen the legs in action yet. We know that they are installed on the SN4 vehicle. They're kind of folded up into the thrust skirt.
I would be willing to bet, again, speculation banner. I'd be willing to bet that in the tent, when they're manufacturing the thing, you know, they did a test. Even if it's just leg by leg, they sort of let the leg, you know, move and latch and verify that it moves and latches, or whatever the appropriate terminology would be, in the way that they're expecting. I don't know if there's a way for them to test them all at once. I don't know if they did that, but I would be surprised if they didn't. And it seems like they're fairly confident in them. So we haven't seen that, like you said, Thomas, but I bet they've tested them to some extent. To what extent? Very good question.
At
Okay,
the
Mary.
very Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Mary, is the solo turning on?
It says loading.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so just to update everybody on the status, it looks like our broadcasting unit ran out of power. We are booting it back on, but it takes a couple of minutes, so sorry for the issue. Good news is that we have a better long-term live stream solution on the way, thanks to all of you guys' super chat support over the past week. We've got some fancy new equipment that will not need these constant battery swaps, and Mary to constantly be maintaining it. So this is hopefully one of the last streams where we will be having issues like this. Again, we have a much better solution on the way thanks to all your support. So thanks for that, and hopefully we will have a live connection with Boca Chica in a minute.
But in the meantime, feel free to send us your questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them here on the
Yeah.
stream. So go ahead and
Yeah,
ask away.
a lot of times chat will come up with questions that I hadn't thought to ask myself, and it's interesting and insightful. So don't feel like you're asking a stupid question. There are no stupid questions. Feel free to fire away in chat and give us something to mull over here. We're happy to answer your questions and bring you
Okay.
guys these views.
Maybe tap the solo power button once. Don't hold it down. Just tap it quickly.
Hit the same thing. Could not identify video input.
Okay, hit the LV button on the camera twice, please. On though.
Hey, what's
Okay,
up?
go ahead, Thomas.
Y'all, unplug the cable.
All right, folks, for those of us who are staying tuned, we are still working to resolve our live feed, making sure we get that reestablished. But just wanted to give you guys an update. We are still working on that. Thank you for staying tuned. And of course, we will continue to report any activity from the launch site itself. Nothing going on just yet. Just when we went off, there was no fueling operations underway yet. So we're working to reestablish that. And we can promise you, you're not missing anything just yet. So stay tuned, and it might take a couple minutes here to get this resolved, but we'll get it done as quickly as we can. Thank you for your patience, and again, thanks to you guys' support on our prior streams and this one. We're able to upgrade our equipment. This is an issue that we already have a solution long term in work. It's just not shipped to the site yet. But again, we are working to improve these live streams every time we get it. When we started this a couple days ago, it was very much an experimental thing, and we're still working and improving, but we'll get it up as quickly as we can. So thank you all for your patience and stay tuned. All right, folks, just to give you another status update, we are still working on restoring our live feed from Boca Chica. We're working through some potentially bad cables and the solo power unit and the camera. We're working on making sure that all of that is up and running. So once again, stay tuned. We're not done yet. We have a couple more things we're going to try. It's going to take a few more minutes, and we're not going to broadcast our troubleshooting audio over the live streams. So we'll pull the audio again. But again, we can report nothing going on at the launch site yet. Last we saw, the personnel had cleared the pad, but again, we're still talking with Mary, and there's no further action at the site since then anyway. So you're not missing anything yet. But again, we're going to work through some final technical potential solutions to our feed, and we're trying to get it up as soon as we can. So just folks, stay tuned, and we'll get it back as soon as we can. Thanks for being patient, everyone. And folks, again, if you're just joining us, we are still working through some technical issues on our end. We lost our live video feed from Boca Chica, and that's what we're working to restore. Again, we can continue reporting that no testing is underway, so we promise you're not missing anything. No fueling operations have begun. It's just the pad is clear, but no further operations since then. We are going to continue working through the issue. We will get it back as soon as we can. It's going to take a couple minutes for us to hard reset some hardware on our end. So please stay patient. We appreciate that you're all hanging out and sticking with this. And we'll give you another update as soon as we have it. And again, we're working to restore this feed as soon as possible. Thank you so much for your patience.
go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have you are here staying with us tonight, unfortunately, we've been trying to work through some technical issues. We did lose our live feed from Boca Chica. We've been working with Mary down there to try and get it resolved, but unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to do some pretty extensive hardware resets and things like that. So we are going to unfortunately have to scrub tonight's live stream. Uh, we are going to be unable to provide a live feed for the remainder of the window. Right before we lost our live feed, the pad was clear, but there were no signs of fueling, and we've continued to talk with Mary, and she says, still no signs of fueling at the launch site. So it looks like the teams may be working through some technical issues that are going to prevent tonight's testing. If you do want to continue monitoring to see if any testing does occur, we do have our friend Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, who was on with us the other night. He has his own live feed from a different place in Boca Chica. So if you do want to continue monitoring Starship testing tonight, please go check him out and stay tuned there. We will continue to work on our end to make sure we are ready for tomorrow night, or I guess later tonight actually, to restore our live feed and bring you another live stream when more testing is set to occur. But again, we are scrubbing tonight's live stream due to a technical issue. Again, thank you all so much for trying to stick with us. We greatly appreciate your support. We are working on both short-term and long-term solutions to make sure this doesn't happen again. But for tonight, we're going to have to call it. So again, thank you all for being so patient. We appreciate you hanging out with us for over an hour of what we do have a live feed of, but we're going to be ending our live coverage. So again, thank you all so much for coming out. Please go check out Everyday Astronaut for live coverage of tonight's window, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Thank you all.